Just how old is cancer? Cancer is often regarded as some sort of modern disease, but some say it's been a problem in our lives for centuries and even millennia. The problem is, cancer is very hard to see preserved in the fossil record. It usually attacks soft tissue, which decays naturally over time. Nevertheless, whilst it is hard seeing if cancer was prominent back then all those years ago, there's no doubt that it's on the rise today. Cases are currently climbing at an alarming rate, and experts even say most of our daily habits can cause cancer, from smoking to unhealthy eating, to even things like frequent flying and piping hot beverages. These are all said to have some sort of link into the development of the disease. Yet, interestingly, they did not have these risk factors hundreds of years ago. So, was cancer actually taking lives where it could throughout history? It turns out that despite these risk factors being more present now, cancer has been a killer for not only all human civilization, but human history, and potentially even longer. So let's explore just how long cancer has been one of our greatest enemies. Let's start by addressing what cancer actually is. Cancer is rapid uncontrolled cell division. Oftentimes it's caused by changes to the DNA within cells. Specifically, our DNA contains two types of genes on it, both linked to cancer. One of them is proto-oncogenes. When these function normally, they stimulate normal cell division, producing proteins to make cells divide. The other gene is called a tumour suppressor gene. When this functions normally, they slow cell division by producing proteins slowing it or destroying the cells completely. When a mutation to this DNA occurs, two things could happen. The proto-oncogene may become mutated, causing it to become overactive. If this happens, it will cause cells to divide uncontrollably, essentially causing cancer, and this new gene produced is called an oncogene. Contrarily though, if the tumour suppressor gene is what becomes mutated, it will become inactive. Should this happen, it will not stop standard cell division from the proto-oncogene, and uncontrolled cell division will occur as a product. Over time, these cells will clump together, forming a tumour. Tumours that are cancerous are known as malignant ones, which are awfully nasty. They can grow at a rapid pace and invade and surround other tissue. But even scarier is that cells can break off this tumour and spread to other parts of the body. This is called metastasis. If this happens, the cancer becomes extremely difficult to cure. So if cancer was present thousands of years ago, what did they do and what did it look like? Would it react in the same way, and would we see this metastasis? The earliest known case of cancer found was a 240 million year old fossilised leg bone of a stem turtle. German scientists reported it to be highly malignant in their analysis. For a bit of context, this creature would have roamed the earth during the same period as the dinosaurs and the first primates. In fact, this species has rarely been documented, so when its fossil was unearthed in 2015, it was heavily studied. Only when some scientists noticed an uneven growth on the left femur did the bone undergo a CT scan. It revealed a bone tumour, which is often called osteosarcoma. Patrick Asbach, a doctor and radiologist at Berlin's Charité University of Medicine, stated that this tumour even looked exactly like osteosarcoma in humans. But does this mean cancer has been relevant for just as long in humans? Well, obviously humans weren't around 240 million years ago, but our ancestors were 1.7 million years ago. And concordantly, this is a leg bone from one of such ancestors, again showing the same malignant tumour on the leg of osteosarcoma. It was found in Swartkrans Cave in South Africa, and Edward John Oates of Wits University School of Anatomical Sciences said on the matter, "We tested this particular bone with a known modern human osteosarcoma specimen and it looked pretty much identical. You couldn't really tell a difference. Millions of years old and you couldn't tell it apart if we blindfolded you." But the next question then arises if it's always been osteosarcoma. Has it occurred in any ancestors closer to modern humans? Well, yes. Anthropologists even now found the presence of cancer in the ribcage of Neanderthals, one of man's closest relatives. The specimen had a rather large tumour in its remains and was dated back to 120,000 years ago. Now, such Neanderthals had no pollution, no cigarettes or hamburgers, yet were susceptible to cancers all the same as modern humans are. So yes, cancer has existed for millions of years and it clearly doesn't seem to be going anywhere. And it's honestly crazy to see how even then our proto-oncogenes and our tumour suppressor genes can mutate in not just human relatives but relatives closer to dinosaurs. Nowadays we have treatment in place for those suffering the illness, but was this always the case? Has it always been documented and known how to cure it? The first known documentation of cancer was found in a papyrus document written by Imhotep in ancient Egypt. But when it mentioned tumours found in the breast, the only thing mentioned is that there is no cure, and to try and remove the infected tissue using cauterization. However, during this time, incidents of cancer were rare. Manchester University investigated the prevalence of cancer within hundreds of Egyptian mummies. Only one case was found to be the result of the disease. Cancer continued to be mentioned even in ancient Greek literature. Hippocrates had several references to the illness in his works, but he realised something that no one else had even discussed. Cancer, specifically the visible tumours, only afflicted older adults. It's actually named as such for its comparison of the illness to a moving crab, in that the tumoral growth resembles the shape of one. Hippocrates believed that cancer was a cause of the imbalance in body humours, the four being blood, phlegm, yellow bile and black bile, the latter of which being responsible for the development of cancer. But again, it was not very common. Cancer was still rare. Hippocrates' theories were believed for centuries, all whilst cancer continued to be documented. In Roman times, the physician Galen extensively studied it, but still did not fully understand it, for Galen also believed it was still a product of the humours being imbalanced, with the noticeable difference to Hippocrates. Galen thought incurable cancer is a result of too much black bile, which is similar, but he thought curable cancer is the cause of too much yellow bile. However, it took over 1,000 years to see any progress in anything cancer related. It was Avicenna, one of the most famous Islamic philosophers of all time, who finally advanced treatment. In his book, The Canon of Medicine, Avicenna describes cancer as a tumour. Whilst he believed the plant Hindaba had anti-cancer properties, he also described a more surgical method. Avicenna stated that the excision should be radical and all that diseased tissue should be removed. This included the use of amputation or the removal of veins running in the direction of the tumour. Following this, it again took many years for progression. In fact, the 19th century was when this type of surgery was now possible routinely. Scottish surgeon John Hunter, whilst alive a century before, pushed for the removal of cancers during surgery, to which the development of anaesthesia nearly 100 years later finally saw it possible. Yet even then, with the treatment finally becoming somewhat patented, cancer is still not nearly as common as it was today. But the question now is, why? There are actually several reasons why cancer seems like a modern illness. Yes, a lot more people die of cancer today than they did even 100 years ago, and this can actually all be explained. For example, take a look at this graph. A long time ago, cancer killed 64 of 100,000 people of the population. Yet also take a look at this study. Cancer is predominantly found in older adults compared to any other demographic. 500 years ago, the average life expectancy was significantly lower than what we've achieved today. Medieval England only had a life expectancy of around 31.3 years old, so it could just be a case of people were not necessarily living as long as they do today, hence developing cancer in the senior years was evidently less common. Another reason though could be the fact that throughout most of its history, cancer has largely gone undiagnosed in many cases. Human history may have seen simple infections, abscesses and masses mistaken for tumours, other patients may have had tumours that were benign. And of course, many years ago, humans have not had access to the substances that do increase the risk of cancer. Hundreds of years ago, there were no deep-fried foods and nicotine was not nearly as prevalent. So it seems cancer is not a modern illness at all. It's actually clearly been around for millions of years and documented for almost all of human history. And as said, it's been affecting genes millions of years ago just like it continues to do now. Nothing has really changed. However, what does seem to be modern is our risks associated with it, our diagnostics, and simply our glorious improved life expectancy. Whilst we are evolving in modern medicine, it does pose the question though, will cancer ever actually be treated? To be honest, probably not. There are over 200 individual types of cancers, so no single cure will likely ever arrive. Yet it's honestly still a little scarier. Many scientists were unable to conclude why cancer is still a problem after all these thousands of years. For example, we've clearly had them for so long, but we continue to see the same thing today. We've had osteosarcoma back then, and we've still got it now. The concept of the rapid cell division forming from a mutation is awfully similar to how evolution works itself. It's beneficial for cells to be able to replicate quickly. It therefore seems like we may never have a cure, and our only hope is our bodies learn to adapt this without it becoming a cancer. But what are your thoughts? Do you think we'll ever have a cure? Let me know in the comments below. And if you don't, well, no Hinderbar for you. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate every single one of you. Be sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed. It's free and it really helps me out. See you next time.